Hello and welcome to another episode of From the Horsebox. I'm Kate.
And I'm Claire. We had great feedback following our chat with Seth, so if you missed it, catch up on episode 32.
Yes, a hard act to follow, so we thought we'd try something a bit different this month and go behind the scenes at our local point-to-point, the Winstay and the Flint and Denbigh, held at Bangor Racecourse on the 12th of March.
Well, this was a huge success and drew a bumper crowd, so congratulations to all the organisers, some of whom we're going to be chatting to in this episode, because the lead up to it with all the snow and everything, they did amazingly well.
It was a great build-up with Cheltenham just around the corner.
Yes, it was. And the winner of the Hunter Chase, Bradley Gibbs with Premier Magic, was such a family story with his father-in-law-to-be owning the horse, and he trains it.
That's a great family story, just like Felix.
Yes, it was brilliant. And the link gets stronger when I found out that Bradley, engaged to Claire, they met when she worked with the Glamorgan Hunt horse. So listen up, Carly and Chris.
So we're under starters' orders, and Claire begins chatting to Carly Sage, clerk of the course.
Hi, Carly. Now, you cleverly managed to combine your hobby and your job within your many roles for the world of point-to-pointing, the Jockey Club, Aintree Equestrian Centre. What do you find is the most challenging part of that?
I think firstly, I'm incredibly lucky that I'm one of probably a few people that actually love my job, and it is almost a bit of a hobby, that I've managed to stay in the equestrian industry. I'm from a farming, hunting, racing background, and was riding probably before I could walk, so being in a position to work in the equestrian industry and work somewhere like Aintree Racecourse, which I'm incredibly proud of. Is it really a job? Yes, obviously there are challenges at times, but...
How much has the weather challenged you for this point-to-point tomorrow?
I'm very proud to say that I wouldn't want to be a full-time clerk of the course. I think any clerk of the course deserves an absolute medal. Waking up to snow the last 2 days has been quite...
So it's your decision. It's your decision, is it, whether to?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's the welfare of the horses and the jockeys that are out there that the racing surface is as best it can be. And when it was covered in the white stuff yesterday, there was questions and a lot of phone calls. My phone was a hotline yesterday, but thankfully it's nice and green out there now. So
how does the point-to-point world underpin other equestrian sports, the racing world and jockeys and people's careers?
I think point-to-point is a great start for anybody that wants to go into the racing world, whether they want to be professional jockeys, trainers, or even just work in yards, in racing yards.
Do you know of anyone in particular that has progressed from that?
I think within the Winstay, obviously Toby Wynn, the two Mags boys, they've done really well. We could have done with them staying in point-to-point a little bit longer, but it's been wonderful to see them. And, I saw them as young lads out hunting with the Winstay, jumping very scary things, and then obviously going on to pony racing, point-to-pointing, and doing really, really well for our local trainers, Donald McCain and Oliver and Josh. So, well done to them, and they're flying the flag.
So a great crowd will be here tomorrow to enjoy the day, lots of sponsors and volunteers from both hunts. How will it compare to a big Aintree day?
Similar, obviously, on a lot smaller scale, but I think one thing to highlight is 99% of the people here at point-to-points and any point-to-point are volunteers.
Carly, are there any local stories to look out for with who's running tomorrow?
So locally, I know Heidi Brookshaw. She's bringing 8 horses, so she's got horses in each race, which is brilliant that, she's only up the road. And there's a couple of local jockeys riding for Henry Crowe, being one. Amy Jones is another one. She's a novice rider. She's got 2 rides to Heidi tomorrow. She's come from a show jumping background. She's been on the European team show jumping as a young rider, and has now decided to go into point-to-pointing, which it's great to see her progress. Hewitt Woolley, I think he's got runners. There's a lot of local ones. Joe O'Shea, he's got a couple of entries. So we don't actually know what's going to turn up on the day, but obviously entries are really good. We've got 96 entries, which we're really pleased with, and hopefully there'll be some competitive racing, good results.
Yeah, that sounds great. Is point-to-pointing strong in this West Mercian area?
Yes, it is, and we obviously used to be the northwest area, and we started up, with the current climate, the way things are, that we did start to lose a couple of tracks. So we have merged with the West Mercian, which has obviously made us stronger. And people are willing to travel more. Years ago when I was riding, you kind of just stuck to your local area and travelled within an hour and a half. But people are willing to travel 3, 4, 5 hours now. So I think point to point, obviously, numbers are slightly less than what they used to be. We're in an ever-changing world, but as an area, we're in a good place.
Yeah, there's a lot of true devotion to the sport, isn't there, with these horses?
There certainly is.
Thank you, Carly.
Claire caught up with Ant Griffith, responsible for sponsorship, which underwrites the point-to-point.
And what is it about point-to-pointing that makes people want to be involved and be generous enough to sponsor?
It's all because of people like me who push people into sponsorship. It's a fantastic event, obviously, family orientated, as we all know, and the sponsors come and they have a lovely day, and it's extraordinarily good value in comparison to National Hunt Racing at a fraction of the cost. And we've got the lovely Flint and Denby Wednesday ladies that look after them all. It's just a lovely family occasion.
So you've been doing this quite a long time, 31 years, am I correct?
Possibly 32. It's so long I can't remember, and I have been trying to get out of it for a very long time.
You must be too good at it.
Well, I have worked out the only way that I can possibly get out of it. Dom Curran did say to me as chairman, he said there's only one way out with these things. You have to find an adequate replacement or it's dead men's shoes. I finally got a replacement, actually, and I am deputising over to Will Turner, thank goodness.
So how do you find working with the Wednesday? Because the last couple of years you've worked together, haven't you, the Flint and Denby and the Wednesday? How does it work as a dynamic?
We've always worked together. There's been a fantastic committee to be on, 32 years later, whatever, and we've always been one big happy family. There's always been one or two little niggles of rivalries, but generally it's been a fantastic committee. There's no messing, no nonsense, and it's over pretty quick. And it's been a great team to work with.
So you've been a jockey yourself and ridden in lots of big occasions and point-to-points. Does it make you at all nostalgic for those days when you look back?
Definitely nostalgic. I had so many happy memories. I had a great time. Bangor was a particular favourite track of mine. Rode half a dozen winners here. And yeah, it does. But I have to say, I'm now reached a stage where I actually don't really want to be up there. Many spinal injuries later, I don't want to do it myself. However, I definitely have a bit of nostalgia watching the boys going out there.
So there must have been quite good rivalries back in the day. Who were your main rivals?
There was a proper lovely team of jockeys, and a lot of the locals, Chris Stockton, and obviously the Barlow boys are all great mates of mine. And what's rather amazing, I'm great mates with David Barlow, but I've got pictures on my wall of the Griffith-Barlow rivalry. It actually goes back 4 generations. So finally, and in fact, Dylan rode in a flat race with Paddy a few years ago. I think that's the 4th generation I've got photographic evidence of 4 generations, which is rather amazing.
Well, I did do a bit of background check on you with my father-in-law, and apparently your father, not too far away from here at Bangor, forded the river, and there's a story about that. His bravery was pretty tremendous.
Oh,
so
dear.
It must run in the family a bit.
Yes, we don't like talking about that because it was actually really ridiculously foolish. And he was so smug. He was the only person that actually followed the hounds across the river and was going, "Where is everyone?" And for when everyone else caught up, they were just going, "You're a lunatic." And I'm afraid it might have possibly, 1 or 2 genes might have followed on.
Well, yes, there's lots of good stories. Will you be following any particular horse or story today?
No, I'm just here to enjoy the day. I'm just trying to sort of steer my youngster, who's obviously extraordinarily keen, and trying to keep him as far away from the bookmakers as I possibly can, but I'm afraid that I've lost that battle already.
Well, I'll let you get back to your sponsors, but thank you very much indeed, Ant, for talking to us.
There's a huge army of volunteers, of all ages, and Claire caught up with some of the younger ones.
Well, good morning. I found 2 race card sellers here. What's your name?
Ollie Johnson.
And how old are you, Ollie?
I'm 17.
And is this your first year selling race cards?
Yes, it is, yeah.
And also we have...
Yolo Griffith.
And how old are you, Yolo? 13. And how long have you been selling race cards?
Probably 4 or 5 years.
So you're a champion then?
Well,
So what's your opening like? Can you give me your pitch? Or what do you say to people when they arrive for a card, Yolo?
well, I say, I've probably got to let them get out the car first, but then I say, hi, can I interest you in a race card? And then,
That's brilliant. What about you, Ollie? What do you say?
I approach them and ask how they are and how they've been, and then ask them whether they want a race card or not and the prices they are.
Brilliant pictures. I can see you both on Dragon's Den next time. And how generous are the rates of pay for this job? You're working so hard.
Hard work, but not much money.
Really, Yolo?
I agree.
Well, that's amazing. And who sells the most, the Flint and Denby or the Winstay?
The Wednesday, of course.
Definitely Clinton Denby.
Champions. Well done. Thank you very much.
I'm at the hub of the racecourse in the weighing room, chatting to Guy Churton, clerk of the scales for over 20 years. Guy's responsible for the jockeys carrying the correct weights. Tell us a bit more about the role you play on a day's racing, Guy.
Indeed, it's not the most onerous job on the racecourse, but it's very important. The owners or trainers enter the horse, and what you see in the race card is what the owners or trainers have put in, i.e. breeding, horse's name, jockey, colours and weight. So that is what you read when you pick up the race card. However, when they get onto the race course, they have to declare the horse to run up to 30 minutes before the race. And some of the information in the race card could be changed, such as the jockey's name or the weights, because the weights are dependent on what the horse has performed up to date, and its age, its sex, and the experience of the jockey. So although the median weight is 12 stone 7, they could be weighing out at less than that, or they could be weighing out at more than that if the jockey is overweight.
Tell us about the jockeys. Some of them are very nervous, aren't they? Do they all cope with it differently?
The younger jockeys, when we've had a very early point-to-point, which we used to have, now we have one point-to-point in the middle of the season. We had some jockeys that had never ridden before, and yes, they were nervous. I mean, they whilst they weigh themselves in a changing room, the scales there aren't as accurate as the ones that I use, which are electric and calibrated to the exact weight. So many of the young jockeys would probably weigh themselves at home with their kit, and then again when they changed at the racecourse and they could still have the wrong weight, then they come in and they are nervous. They have to show their blinkers and any other accoutrements that need to be shown to the clerk of the scales, and breastplates, colours. The colours should be correct, and that is quite unnerving for young jockeys.
Yes, and then you re-weigh 4 when the race is finished.
We do. We re-weigh the first 4, but the inexperienced jockeys often come in and think they're going to be weighed, and they're very disappointed when I said, are you in the first 4? And they'd either fallen off or they finished miles behind. And so we have to disappoint them by saying, no, we don't weigh you in. And sometimes there's quite a long delay because obviously the winner wants to spend time talking to the owners and trainers, and the judge has to come in and give us the form of the way that the horses are finished, and then we have to tell the commentator that they're all weighed in, and then he calls out that they're weighed in, and then the bookies can pay the punters what they have won on the horses.
And you're still weighing in stone as opposed to kilos?
Yes, we haven't moved into the 21st century. We're very much in imperial.
Well, that's very good for the maths. So, apart from abandoned meetings due to the weather, you haven't missed a point-to-point for, as I said, 20 years, which is pretty impressive. What does actually your local point-to-point mean to you?
Oh, I think it's very important, and particularly when my own daughter was riding, it's very, very nice to be involved. Although, of course, when she was riding, I wasn't able to weigh her out. So my very able assistant, Ben Howard Baker, did that one. I have worked mostly for the Winstead and Flint and Denby hunt, initially when it was at Eaton Hall. And the facilities there were very archaic compared with what we've got now. A breezy tent and some bathroom scales. And I have weighed at Eighton and I have weighed at Tabley, but by far the most prestigious one is, of course, Bangor-on-Dee, because we've got professional changing rooms and professional weighing facilities.
Yes, it must make all the difference. Well, that's brilliant. Guy, I'm glad you didn't make me get on the scales, and it was great to hear all about them.
Thank you very much.
It's a busy time in the Sage household. Chris is married to Carly, who we've already met, and as a pundit, this podcast should be a breeze.
Now, Chris, you have one of the most important jobs of the day. The commentating is part of the excitement of the day. Is it an exciting job?
It is an exciting job, yeah, filled with nerve-wracking moments, but it is an exciting part of the day, and it is exciting and interesting job.
So you were funnelled into this job between Eric Windsor and Carly, and you were taught on the job and trained alongside them. So now you've taken over. How did you start off?
Yeah, it was exactly that. Carly volunteered me to work with Eric, and I started in 2018 shadowing Eric at the point-to-points, and then gradually moved to a point where did a race or two and always had Eric there as a sort of critique and support and advisor. But Eric, of course, having done 30 years in the Northwest area, there's no finer commentator to work with and learn from.
Have you and Eric ever commentated side by side?
Yes, we have. We did a race a few years ago at Eighton. We split it, decided as it was a 7-race card, the easiest way to split the day evenly was to do the last race. So I did the first 9 fences and Eric did the last 9, which was quite good fun. And we have a lot of fun, or have had a lot of fun, I should say, doing it together, from trying to be the first to mention one of the jumbo jets flying into Manchester at Tabley to picking out wildfowl in the centre of a course. So we do try and make it fun between us.
Yeah, and he doesn't let you have it all your own way then.
Most certainly not.
The newcomer. That sounds great, Chris, thank you. Is there such a thing as an easy race or a difficult race to commentate on?
There are both. Some of the more difficult ones, which sounds rather strange to people, is the smaller fields. When you get 2, 3, 4 in a race, it can be very difficult to fill time without just becoming very repetitive, and you need then some information on the jockeys and a little bit more background at times to fill in.
So it takes you quite a while to prepare that sort of thing.
Yeah, that can. An easy race is 8 to 12 runners is lovely because there's a nice number and there's always something happening. So you get into a really nice rhythm and you don't need any of that information to fill because there's always something to tell people about on the course.
Do you consciously use your voice to create excitement in different parts of the race? Do you feel that? Or?
Try to. I'm not very good at it. I do have quite a monotone voice, but I do try to put that in at times. But also, I'd like to think that at times also keeps it level, because the last thing you want as a commentator is to be overreacting or making the false statement at a mistake at a fence or something. You don't want somebody to suddenly take sharp inhalations of breath. The crowd want to hear what is happening.
Yeah, you've got to be accurate as well, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah, try and keep accurate and very much don't give opinions, only give what's going on.
How did you first meet Carly?
I met Carly through the Winstay. I moved from Somerset to the Winstay in 2007 to become second whip. And Carly was, at that time, with Steve Wynn at Stockton Hall, where our hunt horses were in livery. So I met her through that, and then when she left Steve's and went to Aintree and I moved out of hunt service, we remained in the area, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, I'm glad to say that the Wednesday spotted both your talents first.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Before we head to the start, Claire bumped into the Stockton race card sellers.
Jake, how many race cars did you sell today? Was it a sellout?
Roughly, Charlie, would you say about 50, 60?
So were you the top sellers, do you think, today?
I don't know, it was quite slow to begin with, but then it got going really quickly.
And did people buy 2 or 3 at a time?
Oh, loads. One person bought like 5 or 6 all at once.
And did you know what change to give him and how
Yes.
to deal with the cash? Oh, well done. You know your maths then.
I wrote it all down on my phone, like the prices, so that was much easier.
So you are Jake, and you're how old, Jake?
I'm 12. Charlie and I'm 9.
Well done. You did a great job.
Let's meet Edward, the starter. Edward, this has been something of a family tradition.
Yes, I think I'm now, the third generation to have been starting. My grandfather and father both were starters in the local point-to-points, and they always took a horse and rode down to the start. But no, I just go down in a vehicle. And my day really starts, you turn up and you get your team together, your team really to make it happen. It's not just about the starter, it's everybody else with you. You usually have a couple of assistants and you have your flag man. So you get, make sure everybody's there, and then I always just check up on the rules because they always change a bit each year because you've just got to be on it a bit. And quite often we'll have a steward come down to the start. So we get down to the start, and first thing is when they all come down there is to do a roll call. One has to do that automatically, do a roll call, make sure everybody's there. And then you've got your way of starting. Years ago it used to be a flag start. Now we very much use a tape, which is great. The setup at Bangor is excellent. Jockeys walk around, and the assistants ask myself. We check all the girths.
So hang on, let's get this right. You start on time, but you must never start early.
Yes, I remember we can't start early because of the bookmakers, so we always have to start on 1 minute after. And I remember one year I was one of the first years we were at Bangor. I was about 2 or 3 minutes late, and I got back, and Jeannie said to me, my races Bangor always start on time. So after that I thought, crumbs, I must be on it a bit more. But anyway, so we always try and start a minute afterwards, do the roll call, do the girths. Then I go over to my rostrum, and the jockeys are always keen to get on. There's always that banter going on between them all, who's going to go off first and how they all want to go, but leave that to them.
And what's the male-female dynamic like?
I don't notice that too much. It's great to have the mixture down at the start, but you don't sort of notice that. They all get on, they're competitive, so I don't feel too much, that's fine really on that sort of side. But I'm up on the rostrum, and then they all want to, all they want to do is get started, and then you just have to make sure you call them in to come in, walk in slowly, and you want them in a group as much as you can. And it's a bit of a judgment call when you're going to let them go, and you want to be firm and decisive, because if they are all trying to rush you, you've got to stop that and get the jockey's respect. But you want to get them off first time, so if they're walking in steady, jogging in a good bunch, and they'll be way before that. Sometimes they get to the tape, I'll let it go, and then they can have a nice start.
And there's lots of yes sirs and no sirs, and
yes, as they come in, there's yes sir, and then there's a couple saying no sir, but just as they come in, and then you just make that judgment, and away they go. From that respect, and you just have to sort of go with it, and as I said, make your best judgment of how they go. You have always, if you're going to have a false start, which we don't seem to have had for years now, because you've got the tape, you've got your flag man who's down at the first fence, and you can indicate to him if you've got a false start, and then he has to stand his ground and turn everybody back. And then a few other difficult starters. Sometimes you have horses that won't start, or they plant, and you'll get owners and connections and trainers come up to you and say, right, in the next race, so-and-so, this horse didn't start last time. And I quite enjoy that, because it's quite a challenge to get them to start. And other people lead them in. So that's all part of the fun of making it all happen on the day, and it is an amateur sport.
Well, it sounds a very sort of high-pressure few moments, and you certainly are at the sharp end. You obviously have a bird's-eye view, and hopefully you see some of the racing superstars of the future.
Yes, and I always think it's a good job to have at a point, because when you started the race, then you can go and enjoy it, and it is, just for a few minutes, it's right on it, but it's great. It's so good to do it.
They say a race is not won at the start, but it can easily be lost. Felix Barlow got off to a great start and a very successful finish, where Claire caught up with him.
Congratulations, Felix, on your first point-to-point win on the Dubai Way, and you've won the Camilla Churton Kelly Memorial Trophy. I watched the race with your Pony Club Games team trainer, and he was trying to take all the credit for your riding. Is that the case? Is that where you learned your riding in Pony Club Games?
He clouted the last on the second circuit as we were going out on our second circuit. So I felt my games came in hand there. So, yeah.
You managed to stick like glue, did you? Well done. It was very exciting to watch.
Yeah.
So it's a family project, isn't it? Your father hunts him, your mother rides him out, and you're the jockey. So it's a real family
I shouldn't really take any credit, should I?
You definitely should. But it's a great story, and you all can celebrate tonight, can't you?
Well, I'm off back to school tonight, so probably not.
So when do you think you'll ride him next?
I'm not sure. We'll have to look in the calendar and see which race is suitable to him next.
Well, you were a very popular winner here, Felix. Congratulations.
Thank
well
you.
done.
Thank you very much.
Another very popular place on the course, and I'm hoping Claire's having a well-earned drink.
So, Gress, we're in the farmer's bar having a drink. This is a rare day off, isn't it, for you from your farming?
Yes, most certainly is.
Yeah. So, you spent the day enjoying the point-to-pointing or the racing, or have you met up with some friends in the bar? Or both?
Met up with some friends in the bar, late getting away, so we didn't see much of the point-to-point, to be fair.
Yeah. So, whereabouts do you farm? Near Malpas or in Chocolate? Yeah. And are you a fan of Countryfile or Clarkson's Farm?
Oh, Clarkson.
You like Jeremy Clarkson?
Yeah, might as well watch Emmerdale's Countryfile.
Yeah. So what do you think Jeremy Clarkson has highlighted in the farming world?
The ups and downs of it, I think. I think he's got such a personality and a sense about him that he can put it across to the public.
Yes, he can, yeah.
Am I doing okay?
Yeah, you're doing very well, Chris. It's very nice to talk to you. I'm glad that you're having a great time and a day off for once. Well deserved. Thank you. Thank you both for a wonderful parade of hounds, and many of us here today view yourselves and your hounds as the beating heart of the community in the Welsh Borders and the Vale of Clwyd, and the connection between you and your hounds has been penned as the golden thread. Is this connection something you can put into words at all, Chris? How do you get this bond between you and the hounds?
I personally believe it's just working with them day in, day out and gaining trust. It's all about trust, I think, personally.
And the trust goes both ways, doesn't it?
I think so, yes.
What do you think, Robert?
Quite agree, really.
Your hounds.
Quite agree. You know, we're in a way of life here. As Chris has said, we work with them 24 hours a day, really. You know, they're our workmates, they're our colleagues.
Yeah.
Everyone always asks, how do you know the names? Well, we work with them every day, we see them every day, and that bond just comes from there.
Well, the devotion is wondrous. And it seems to be an increasing trend now that you take your hounds and visit other packs. Does this present a special challenge for you and your hounds if you visit?
In some ways, I guess it's a challenge, because obviously you're going into technically a strange country, as much as a lot of the time when you visit you do know people, you know the area, but yeah, you go into a strange country and, you know, you rely on your bond with your hounds and your hounds to operate how you want them to operate and show where you're visiting what the Flint and Denby or what the Winstay can do.
So it doesn't make a great deal of difference then to your hounds?
No, not really. It's all about trust.
Yes.
You trust your hounds to do what you want them to do, and yeah, it's...
No more. All gone.
Everything should
Yes.
all be up together, really.
You're both very able jockeys. Have you ever ridden in a race, Chris?
I've done a few charity races, that's about it.
You're very
And a race
competitive
across
then.
the country to keep up with these.
Yeah, and you did quite well in that race, didn't you?
I was second, yes.
Yeah,
so I was
pretty good.
I did okay.
Raise money for charity.
Exactly.
Rob, have you ever ridden in a race?
No. I've
So where did
just
you,
the hunting.
how did you learn to ride to such a degree?
Well, just practice and had to ride to follow the hounds. Really, I grew up with a foot pack in Snowdonia, and in order to get in on the job and start my career, I had to move to a mounted pack, and it sort of went from there really. And
So it came naturally.
I'd like to think so now. Probably didn't at the time, but
Were you a sportsman at school? Is sport
definitely,
naturally
definitely,
athletic person?
but riding a horse is one thing for sure. I mean, I've had to go on a motorbike a time or two, and that frightens me to death. Give me a horse any of the day.
Well, I've seen
it's
you-
all balance, I suppose. But
Yeah, I've seen you jumping some hedges
Yeah.
in great style. Very nice to talk to.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Claire has done an amazing job dashing around the racecourse. What a great day. We hope you've all enjoyed it too.
I didn't even get a chance for my posh picnic.
Don't worry, we'll get the bubbles out as this episode marks our 2nd podcast anniversary.
Well, we're very proud to have had over 10,000 downloads, and we look forward to our next exciting episode when it could be you in the driving seat.